Good, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our live feed coming up for the Ag Issues program this morning. As we periodically do, we talk about Shop Kansas Farms, and that is indeed what we're going to do here very soon. We're in a commercial right now on 580 WIBW, so we're waiting the open, and we will be back with you here shortly. Meagan Cramer is already here and joining us this morning, and we will soon be joined, hopefully, by Rick McNary, the founder of Shop Kansas Farms, and we'll keep you updated as to everything that's going on, including a big event coming up, this weekend for, or next weekend for Shop Kansas Farms. It's the first day of spring, so
that's exciting.
I do know that. I may not know a lot else, not much else, but at least the calendar says it's the first day of spring, albeit it doesn't feel like it, but it is. As always, if you've lived in the state long enough, you know what the weather can be like this time of year, where thunderstorms one day and then, of course, snow the next. So, All right, stand by. Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you with us on the program this morning. And we're also live as far as what we are going to be doing via StreamYard. And, of course, we're going to talk with our good friends at Shop Kansas Farms about Shop Kansas Farms. We're joined by, here in just a second, Meagan Cramer, Director of Communications and Marketing with Kansas Farm Bureau. They, of course, now own Shop Kansas Farms. And we're going to talk also, we hope to be connected soon with the founder of Shop Kansas Farms, Rick McNary, as he will join us on the Ag Issues program here on 580 WIBW. But before we do that, let's get an update on the forecast. Nick, I will have the mic on when the program audio is going, so I don't hear it in the overhead speakers.
Here across the state, as we'll see lots of sunshine for days, with not much precipitation in sight.
That, of course, was giving some instructions to our engineer, Nick Bowers, give you the insides of radio. We think we know what we're doing, and most of the time we do, but sometimes it can go haywire, so to speak. Meagan, did you guys get any snow there in Manhattan?
We got a little bit. It was very, very windy. And I let the dogs out this morning, and there was a little bit on the grass still, but it's not very much. How about you?
Just a little. I mean, it was yesterday afternoon. It was kind of the everything mix of rain, sleet, grapple, snow, all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to Wichita in the morning, and I came back in the afternoon, and I mean, it was the wind was the worst, but
yeah, exactly. All right, stand by, and we'll set to go here shortly.
Lots of sunshine for the most part across the state. Maybe a few passing clouds. Statewide, we'll get into the 60s and even some 70s on Saturday. This is the Kansas Ag Network.
All right, thank you very much. As far as temperatures are concerned, first day of spring doesn't feel like it right now. Clear sky, 29 degrees at Blue Airport, 29 degrees this morning at Ford's Field, with temperatures either in the upper 20s to low 30s, as warm as 31 this morning in Olathe. Further west you go, Manhattan, clear 25. Further south, clear at 30 in Emporia. This morning on the Ag Issues program, a pleasure, as always, to bring on to the program Meagan Cramer, Director of Communications and Marketing with Kansas Farm Bureau, but has been heavily involved since the very beginning of Shop Kansas Farms. And now Shop Kansas Farms is under the auspices of Kansas Farm Bureau as she joins us on the program this morning. Meagan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Greg. Great. I'm not working outside right now, so it's a good day.
That's a very good thing. Yes, most definitely. All right, let's talk about, of course, Shop Kansas Farms. And it has been a while since I've looked at the website. I just noticed that there was a pretty good revamp, but for the growth of the Shop Kansas Farms, pretty good revamp, but for good reason to be able to do that and make it easier for those who are looking at the shopkansasfarms.com website.
Yeah, we continue to grow, which I think surprises some people. But I think people have always wanted to know where their food comes from. So the ability to pop on a map or jump in the Shop Kansas Farms Facebook group and see who's growing what near you and what you can buy direct growers is a super nice thing to do. And we try to make it as easy as possible. Um, so we continue to have people join as growers and sellers on that. I think we get 5 or 6 a week usually. And then the Facebook group still continues to grow. We're over 169,000 people that are part of the group. So yeah, it's still very active, and we are still doing lots of great stuff out there.
It's somewhat surprising. I don't think it should be a lot surprising, the fact that literally almost 5 years ago, when this Rick McNary hatched this idea,
Yeah.
um, it's just amazing to see, because I remember the first time I had him on to talk about it, we were getting really close to 50,000. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, it
Hmm.
broke 50,000. And now 4+ years later,
I
uh,
know.
that's just amazing to think. But the importance of that is that people have that interest and continued interest in what the Shop Kansas Farms website's able to do.
Yeah, and so when he came to us about buying Shop Kansas Farms and we talked to the board, that was one of the things that we knew. We knew that some of our members had done really well through Shop Kansas Farms by going direct to consumer. And we also knew that there were some of our members who still wanted to do that and maybe didn't have quite the expertise or the setup yet. And so we are still getting people up on the website. They're still, figuring out how exactly to do direct to consumer. It's different, just like you talk about. Every farm is different. Every direct to consumer business is different too. And so it's really fun to work in this space and talk to the folks who are growing their businesses and doing something maybe a little bit different than traditional ag.
Going to the Shop Kansas Farms website, shopkansasfarms.com, right on the homepage, and it's important, and this is an important message: connect with Kansas families who grow and raise food for you.
Hmm.
And that's such the vital and really big underlying message throughout all this.
Yeah, and that was another thing when we talked to the board. As we all know, when farmers and ranchers do well, rural communities do well. So if we can provide opportunities for folks to diversify businesses or maybe start new businesses, they can really help rural communities grow and prosper. So that was another reason that it really just made sense for us to come on board alongside Rick and Christine and see what else we could do with Shop Kansas Farms.
Well, we've talked about a lot of things, but one of the things I want to talk about here early on, you've had success with the Market of Farms events that have taken place periodically here in the last couple of years. You've got one coming up next weekend,
Hmm.
next Saturday, and that's going to be in Lawrence.
Yeah, we're super, super excited about this. So Douglas County Farm Bureau reached out and wanted to sponsor Market of Farms. And if you followed the Market of Farms at all, we usually have them in smaller communities. And so when this opportunity came up, we thought, yes, let's do it. And of course, Douglas County is very different from Caldwell or Lyons. And we have been really, really happy with what we've seen. You would think maybe most of our vendors are from the Lawrence area, and I think we have 3. So the rest are from all across the state. People are super excited. I think it's going to be a great day. It's always really fun to see what we call our Shop Kansas Farms fans. They kind of make a weekend out of these. They will come. Obviously they'll bring their little if you know those wagons that softball moms haul around with all the equipment, they will come with those and fill those with stuff that they bought from our vendors. So it's always really fun. And I just think it's going to be a great turnout and a great day for our vendors and for consumers that want to connect with these folks.
By the way, that will take place, the Shop Kansas Farms Market of Farms, at Flory Meeting Hall. That is on the Douglas County Fairgrounds. That is in the eastern part of Lawrence. It'll start 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And like you mentioned, it's just looking over the list of who's going to be there. That's a pretty impressive list, and a list that's coming from a wide area too.
And it's all really diverse. We've got beef, pork, that kind of stuff. We've also got produce, which is kind of early in the season, but I'm super excited about that. We'll have our honeys and jams and jellies. I'm really excited. It's a diverse group of growers with lots of stuff to buy and enjoy.
Well, and you bring up a good point in that there are things, obviously, beef, pork, poultry, some of the main things that a lot of the farmers do, but the diversity of products, that I'm sure that's been interesting to see once you start to really break down everything that's taken place and what these Kansas farms or these Kansas businesses are offering.
Yeah, if you've been on the Facebook group or, been paying attention at all, the price of eggs is always a comment. And we have people selling eggs on the group. So that's probably not super surprising. I forgot we have Buffalo Seed Company. So we'll have somebody actually selling seeds to grow your own stuff. So that will be super interesting. And I do want to make a plug. We had a vendor who had to pull out, so we had 1 booth space become available. So if there were any vendors that wanted to come and missed out on the opportunity, we did have 1 booth space become available, and they can go to shopkansasfarms.com and click on the events page. They'll see the Market of Farms, and there's a button there that says become a vendor. So we did have 1 space open up.
And so much of this, and just looking at the Facebook page, which you have referenced, and that is just type in facebook.com, type in the search Shop Kansas Farms. A lot of it is product placement, depending on how you talk about that, but mainly it's pictures of sides of beef or individual steaks, or one that is on right now the page, huge cinnamon rolls that are on that page too.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch that, and obviously we've learned some things through Facebook. In the beginning, we had people posting photos of the animals because we're proud of our animals, right? That makes sense. Well, Facebook didn't like that. We got dinged as a group. But also we know as consumers, they probably don't want to know what the animal looks like, right? They want to know what the end product is going to look like. So I think our growers have figured out how to really connect with consumers on the end product. And yeah, showing some delicious pieces of beef is probably a little more enticing than the larger animal for consumers anyway, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Meagan Cramer, Director of Communications and Marketing with Kansas Farm Bureau. They, of course, now the owners of Shop Kansas Farms, and that will come up after this on this edition of the Ag Issues program here on 580 WIBW. And for those watching on our StreamYard Live, we're in a commercial break on 580 WIBW, and we'll get going here in just a second to talk about several other things. I'll joke here, Meagan. I keep seeing a big tail in the background going like this.
So we are watching one of our daughter's dogs. So we have 2 dogs of our own, and so we have an extra dog here this week. And he's a larger dog, so I don't know which tail you're seeing, but yes, we have a house full of dogs this week.
I don't know if it helps, but it's a big black bushy tail.
Yeah, that would be Sammy, my daughter's dog. Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah.
fun you see on interviews like this in the background.
Yeah. Well, then my little dog over here is trying to get it comfortable in a blanket, and I'm like, okay, be quiet.
All right. How much longer we got?
We are finishing up this Bluestone spot. And we have,
Okay, 10:40.
When you're hiring,
Okay.
have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them. They have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find.
Well, just
You know where to go. And that place is
this is a tease for everyone.
You can
We'll get into
for free.
if there's been any discussions on the price of eggs on the website, because I know the discussion part of it can get interesting
Yeah.
on the conversations. But I'm sure
I
there's
feel
more
like
than enough. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but I feel like people have figured out that we aren't going to let people go in there and talk about prices, but we still do get it sometimes, but definitely not like it was in the beginning, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
To try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
All right, folks, stand by. If you're watching on StreamYard,
Never miss out on
we will get going here very, very shortly.
Technology is working harder, faster, and more reliably. It's delivering results.
And
But who makes technology work? CDW. We're a full-service technology solutions provider, advising our clients and designing customized solutions so they can reach their goals and do amazing things.
we'll get going here shortly, looking over a couple things. And here we go.
This is Ag Issues with Greg Akagi.
We're back on the Ag Issues program this morning here on 580 WIBW. Meagan Cramer, Director of Communications with Kansas Farm Bureau, is joining us. Kansas Farm Bureau, now the owners of Shop Kansas Farms, and she's joining us on the program. She has been involved in Shop Kansas Farms literally since the very beginning of when the idea hatched in Rick McNary's head and made it reality. And of course, they joined us on the program today. Another part of this, Meagan, that you have, or that Shop Kansas Farm has, are 2 harvest hubs that you're working on, the Border Queen in Caldwell, but also in Sedgwick County too.
Yeah. So if you know Rick at all, he's worked in the hunger space for many, many years, and that's a passion project of his. And he's been thinking about these local food systems, creating a resilient food system. So when something like COVID happens, people are still able to get food. And so when that was another reason when we took this to the board, creating these regional food systems just makes a lot of sense. It makes sense for our growers. It makes sense for rural communities because, again, when farmers and ranchers are doing well, rural communities do well. So if we can give other opportunities for folks in communities, other opportunities, it's a great day. It's a great thing to do. So in Caldwell, we are on year 2, which is really hard to believe. We received funding from the Patterson Family Foundation, and Rick and Stacy Davis, who's the Economic Development Director for Sumner County, applied for a grant through K-State 105, and they are building out an incubator kitchen in Caldwell, right behind the Caldwell Workspace. So it will be open to people that want to start tinkering around, maybe making some jellies or bureaux or whatever, this kitchen will be available for people to use. So that's going to be super exciting. They have to be done by the end of June. They're making great progress. I have, no worries that that's not going to happen, but that is super, super exciting. We were also able to hire an executive director, Dr. Jen Kern, who retired from being in the school system. She was born and raised in Caldwell. She is amazing. She's started hitting the ground running. So we are just seeing lots of great things happen in Caldwell. And if you're familiar with the Border Queen, it actually goes down into Oklahoma, which is very, very interesting. We're learning a lot about, what you can do in Oklahoma and maybe what you can't do in Kansas as far as food, and then coming across state lines. And so it seems like every time we do something in Shop Kansas Farms, it's very different and you're always learning as you go, right? Because it's not something you do every day.
Yeah.
We also received funding from the Kansas Health Foundation to build a harvest hub in Sedgwick County. So obviously Wichita, we know there's lots of great stuff already happening there around the food system. So our goal there is to just come alongside them and lift up the work that's already happening there and connect all the folks and see if we can build the production, processing, and delivery components of a food system just in Sedgwick County. So lots of exciting things happening.
And magnified in the aspect of, regardless of what you think, the cutoff of some of the funding that has taken place with other food related systems like that, due in part if it was, direct government funding or USDA funding in this case.
Yeah, I mean, we want to see people succeed wherever we can get funding. I think it's helpful, and we're going to keep moving forward. We were at a Kansas Health Foundation event that was talking about specifically hunger in Kansas. And they were kind of coming up with some framework around that. And it's like, do we focus on what's happening right now? I don't think you can, right? Because how do you plan for the future when you don't know what's going to be there? So we're just moving forward, doing what we can with what we have, and really trying to support growers and business owners however way we can.
Meagan, you brought up the price of eggs, or at least the discussion or everything else that has taken place with that. But this is where, at the very beginning of Shop Kansas Farms, to where you had to have the guidelines,
Yeah.
like anything that needs to be about that, because there's a lot of negative Nancy's out there
Mm-hmm.
who just want to stir the
Yep.
pot up, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But that, even though legitimate conversation, there's some borders, some guidelines for anyone who, has to discuss it or wants to discuss it on there too.
Yeah, if you've heard Rick talk about it, he had to create a rule. So I think it was like be nice or something. And he thought that was pretty much all encompassing, which, yeah, it makes sense, but it wasn't clear enough for people. So we really had to spell it out that you cannot come on the Shop Kansas Farms Facebook group and get political or grumpy. So anytime somebody comes on there and starts complaining about the price of whatever it is, we will say, nope, you're not going to do that. You don't go to the grocery store and complain to the store manager, although maybe we are doing that right now with eggs, but it's like the price is the price. If you don't like it, you can just keep on scrolling. So we know people will pay these prices. The growers are not just coming up with prices; like they have a reason for why they are selling their products at this price. So,
But when legitimate questions comes up,
yes,
that's where all these producers, I think, really do an outstanding job of
hmm
education for the consumer out there too.
yeah, that was especially in the beginning. We saw a lot of that. I think education on both sides, like I talked about, getting the right picture for consumers, especially. But then, if a consumer would come on and say, "I want a cow," a rancher would come on and say, "Well, you probably don't want a cow, and you probably don't want a whole one. So let's talk about, let's ask some questions of each other and figure out, what you need and what I can offer." So that still happens today. Like you can go on there and people will say, how much, what does a quarter of beef look like? what does that look like for my freezer? So there's still that education piece happening out there. Of course, the grass-fed, grass-finished conversations happened as well, still happen today. So there's still lots of great education happening within the group.
All right. Again, this the 29th is the date for the next Market of Farms event in Douglas County that will take place March 29th in Lawrence, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That will be at Flory Meeting Hall at the Douglas County Fairgrounds. It's on the east side of the city. You can find more about that at shopkansasfarms.com. Just click on the events page to be able to do that. And they can do the same if there's a vendor out there who wants to be a part of this, because you have one that was open too, Megan?
Yep, we had one vendor space come open, so we have one available if there's anybody out there who wants to join us.
All right, sounds good. Hey, Megan, as always, really appreciate it. Good to catch up with you guys, and we will keep in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Greg.
That is Meagan Cramer, Director of Communications with Kansas Farm Bureau. Of course, Kansas Farm Bureau, the owner of Shop Kansas Farms, as she joins us this morning on the Ag Issues program here on 580 WIBW. All right, stay with us. When we come back, we'll get an update on the news headlines, and we'll check the weather forecast. That comes up next.